As some of you might have already seen in one of my recent videos, I showed how I finally visited this hometown of mine in the Philippines after 10 long years. You might be wondering why I haven't had a chance to come back. Other than being busy from work and my travels, my family and most of my relatives are no longer living there, so I never had much of a strong reason to visit again. Until early this year when my childhood friend, Aludia, invited me to come over to see how much the province has changed. After all, she built a new tour company for Batanes, and it was called Iraya Travel and Tours, and she wanted me to try out one of her packages. This was very timely because due to the recent popularity of these islands, a lot of you guys have been asking me for suggested itineraries, best tours, hotels, or whatnot. Before, I couldn't give the best answer because when I left, there weren't even enough hotels, restaurants, nor even tour companies. I could actually count them all with just one hand. But of course, today, that has changed. And so, I landed last January during a rainy day. And I'd like to think that it was because the islands were weeping with gladness at how I finally returned. Right from that moment, I saw the airport and I saw a lot of changes already. And up until I reached the center of the district, which was Pasco. Somehow, everything felt foreign to me, yet still familiar all at the same time, as huge waves of nostalgia kept hitting me in the face. It's hard to explain, but it was all surreal and exciting. Later on, after I had a hearty meal of some Ivatan dishes that I miss so much, we proceeded to do a Batan North tour. I was with Aludia and Kuya Romel, and we jokingly talked about how funny it was that I, a local, was being toured around the place that I grew up in for 15 years. Now the weather wasn't that good, but here were the places that we visited. The next day, the skies cleared up and Batanes is back to its usual sunny self. But before I go on, something that's worth mentioning is that I stayed over in the only luxury hotel that exists in the islands, and it's called as Fundacion Pacita, which has commanding views over the surrounding sea and hills. A bit of trivia for you, this was the former house of Pacita Abad, who was an internationally known Ivatan artist. After lunch, we spent the rest of the day visiting the south to see the remaining areas, namely Mahataw, Uyugan, Ivana, Itbud, and Imnahbu. You could actually do this south tour together with the north tour in just a day, but of course, it's best to take it easy. Now without further ado, here are the places that we saw. Given the great weather, we went back to some places in the north after we were done with the south tour so that I can see them in their best. There is one downside that I see for growing up in such an amazing place like this, and that is, I'm actually very hard to please when it comes to natural terrain. For example, when I visited Austria, Croatia, and the northern part of New Zealand, most of the people around me were crying out praises for the mountains, cliffs, and hills. Me? I just stood there and thought to myself, this is nice. And that was it. But this is not to say that those places weren't great, because they are. It just so happens that scenes like that were kind of normal to me. So in order to get a more exuberant reaction from me, it has to be far more incredible. On the third day, we visited the island of Sabtang. Depending on the strength of the waves, going here involves an exciting 30 to 1 hour boat ride from Ivatan in Batan Island. I say exciting because the waves can get really strong, but I assure you, it's safe. Yet for those who have motion sickness, do prepare. Curious why I say this? Well, let me show you. Now here are the things to see in Sabtang. That is the last inhabited island in Batanes, and unfortunately, I came here during January and the waves to this direction were crazy during that time, so I didn't manage to visit. Anyhow, I highly suggest that you visit Ivatan if the ocean permits. As for me, the rest of my days were spent reconnecting with old friends and visiting other places that were dear to me, like my family's old residences and my elementary and high school grounds. But yeah, it was really great to be back home again. As for you, if you're interested in visiting these islands, feel free to use my coupon code Aileen15 when booking with Irea Travel and Tours, so that you can get a 15% discount on select services and packages. Meanwhile, if you want more details, do read my travel guide to Batanes by clicking the box that appears above or by clicking the link that I will include in the description below. All in all, it's my hope that you get to visit these islands so that you can see its beauty with your own eyes. And if you ever have the chance to visit, please drop me a note and let me know how your trip went. And so, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again next time.